Ruth, let me bring you in on the gender question that both sides, or I should say all sides, are trying to answer. So we saw Kenya Kwanza this week saying giving at least 50% of the cabinet seats to women, realizing the two-thirds gender rule that has been quite elusive in elective and appointive positions within 12 months of being elected. Azimio, on the other hand, of course, we know Raila Odinga had picked Martha Karua as his running mate. And then, of course, they promised to address the plight of widows and single mothers. Local manufacturer of sanitary towels, Wajakoyah, has a running mate, Justina Wamai. And then the 12-month maternity leave for mothers. When you look at all those three so far, are they answering the gender question adequately enough?
I think for me, if you listen to what you've said, comparing both manifestos, there are two key things that both of them have. The first one is enforcing the two-third gender rule. And my question would be, how are we going to enforce this? We have tried severally the past few years. It is actually one of the only ones since the 2010 Constitution was passed that has not gone through. There was even a directive that was given by the CJ that has also not gone through. So for me, my major question would be, how are they planning to implement this? Because it's very easy to say we are going to enforce it, but the question then should be how. If you look at the number of candidates that have been fielded, what percentage of them are actually women for us to be able to say that we are going to enforce the two-third gender rule, right from the elective positions to the appointive positions? The second one is on financial literacy. I think both camps have touched on it, but I like what Azimio said in terms of being a bit more specific with the kind of financial services that they'd like to bring closer to the women. And my only, I think why this is really close to home for me is because we are not going to be able to give women a stronger voice until we are able to actually put money in their pockets. Because if they have no money in their pockets, then they will still have to go back to, the male figures within their communities and within their homes for them to be able to give them direction on some of these things. So I think those are the two things that were really striking for me. As to their running mates, as an indication of them having the women at heart, not so much for me. Mm-hmm. Because this has not really cascaded down to the lower levels, and that by that I mean the gubernatorial positions across the country. So for me, I think we still have a long way to go in terms of the two-third gender.
Okay, really quickly as we wrap up the conversation.
Before you finish,
yes,
go ahead. One thing that would have been very important is to see how can we get nursing moms to actually still be able to go to work and spend time with their children. If we could actually enforce a law where, in each and every workplace, then there is a nursing room for these mothers. Let them be able to take some time to nurse their children, to, feed them and things like that. That would be very important.
All right, so workplaces being a bit more inclusive when it comes to nursing mothers. The last bit I want to get into before we wrap up the conversation is agriculture. A huge driver of the economy in this country, at least. Kenya Kwanza wanting to uplift at least 2 million poor farmers and make them surplus producers, and of course giving funds and other resources to help at least boost their production. Azimio promising farmers access to affordable inputs such as seeds, fertilizers, chemicals. Wajakoyah, very interesting, legalizing bang, snake farming and dog meat for export. So when you look at these, Steve, and the practicality of some of these commitments in boosting agriculture in this country, which one do you feel actually answers that question adequately?
To be fair, DP Ruto has a grasp over the issues challenging Kenya. When you listen to him present his manifesto, he understood the numbers, he understood the challenges, and he knows how to fix them. What creates doubt about his ability to deliver is he's the architect of the current problems we have. Between 2013 and 2018, his MPs, the MP for Kikuyu, the chairman of the Parliamentary Accounts Committee, actually the people who actually laid down the current foundation of very exorbitant and repugnant taxation. So for me, if you look at the Azimio manifesto, it lays serious focus on manufacturing. We are an agrarian economy. basically meaning at the end of the day, we all depend on agriculture. But where we've reached now, if you look at global trends, if you look at the evolution of technology, we need manufacturing to work in tandem with agriculture for us to be able to get anything out of it. Because there is no way we can continually keep pumping money into agriculture, trying to uplift farmers, and we're not really creating the issue of transferring knowledge, trying to see how best we can utilize our soils, learning from what Israel is doing. So for me, if I look at Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, I will go with Azimio because of the manufacturing aspect. Okay. And secondly, they talk about, they don't talk about funding the farmer, they talk about reforming the tax aspect so that the farmer can have access to affordable farm inputs, which is actually very critical, because now this will give the farmer an advantage in terms of being able for them to make some profit. Because at the end of the day, farmers also want to eat. There's no point of actually farming something that you cannot be able to afford. And at the end of the day, agriculture goes in tandem with production, agro-processing, and manufacturing. And we need pillars that will actually be able to lift the farmer. And the only way to lift the farmer is to see how do you create value addition to various products. And if you look at the Azimio manifesto, it focuses on one county, one product. So I'm just giving numbers. If we committed 47 billion, 1 billion per county to be able to create one key factory per product, we'll create over 100,000 jobs ago. I mean, within even the first 1 year. So I give credit to DP Ruto for having a grasp of the issues challenging the country, but his character and the fact that he's the architect of the current problems we have, and this is something he cannot run away from. And the fact that, the current fight between him and the president makes it impossible for us to look at him through clean eyes. So in both aspects, Azimio will actually take the lead, because they look at empowering us, or the ordinary Kenyans, to do something for themselves. The dignity of being a human person, to work and benefit from your own sweat.
Ruth, let me get the last word from you, just in terms of what your assessment of Professor Wajakoyah's proposals and his 10 steps to freedom. He had a few economic activities that he felt would be beneficial to Kenyans and the economy, such as snake farming or dog meat for export. What do you see in terms of the practicality? Because they definitely are conversation starters. People are talking about it. But what about the practicality aspect?
You see, Victoria, like every politician, the first thing that Professor Wajakoyah is doing is to ensure that he gets all our attention, and for that he has succeeded. But as to as to the practicality, like you asked, for me, where he lost me is when they started talking about, the first 1 year or the first 2 years, and how we are going to be a country that is being run as a company, that's making profits. Now, if you look at the cannabis that they want us to, grow and then use that as our main export, it takes 4 to 8 months to grow it. They need another maybe 6-7 months for the legal procedures that would be behind it. So within the first year, my question then would be, so what will we be doing as a country within 1 year? What are we going to be doing? Where are we going to get our money? How are we going to survive? So for me, the practicality of that is not very good. If you look at how they want to, use 90% of the land that is available in Kenya, my question then is what happens to agriculture that, as you say, has been a bedrock of this country? If you look at the hyenas and the dog and all these things, Kenya is known for its tourism. Now, we are not going to start changing that for Kenya to be a land where we are going to be doing hunting. That's not who we are as Kenyans, and that's not what we are about to begin. So for me, in terms of practicality, I think his manifesto or his economic agenda is to excite us more than it is to propel us as a country.
Okay, Ruth Bolo, Steve Biko-Wafulo, thank you so much for your time coming in and trying to unpack these manifestos. Of course, this is for Kenyans to go through over the next 37 days to decide who will indeed be the next president of Kenya. That does it for Voters Hub. Thank you so much. Let's take a short break. We'll be back with much more. Stay with us.